Hello there, you guys. I hope you're all doing well. Today I thought we would kind of jump off of the last video and attempt to make some home protection spell things. And I want to try 3 different ways to do it. I only have one figured out in my head, which I will get to in a second, and then the other 2 I kind of have a general idea of what I want to work on, but I don't really know how I want to go about it yet, so hopefully we'll figure it out by the end of this video. This camera's actually a little bit too low. Alrighty, there we go. So as I said, I want to build off the last video where I produced some cleansing sprays, and so now my home is cleansed and it feels really good, or well, a lot better. But I want to make some more things that will help protect the space and the energy that I have set up here for longer. And in doing so, I also really want to focus on the versatility of herbs. And so my goal is to use different herbs in each preparation, and I'm gonna stick to just the 3s because I find those are the most accessible and easy for people to just kind of play around with. But of course, as always, feel free to experiment and add your own things and make these your own. So without further ado, let's get started. First and foremost, I want to make something for the front door. And originally I had wanted to make a bit of a wreath, but as it turns out, I accidentally dried these ones a little too long, and these ones are not quite dry enough, but that's okay. We will just change plans and do something a little different. So the 3 spaces I want to work on today are the front door, the window, and I guess the front door again, but it's more the person existing within the space when they go out of the space. I'll explain when we get there. But first up, we have the front door, which, as I said, I originally wanted to make a wreath, and well, I made a mistake with the drying of the herbs and didn't pay close enough attention to them. This first charm was one that I've been thinking about for a while, and I gathered everything up at the beach. Or rather, the island. Beach, island, they are interchangeable, and I apologize when I say those 2, and it maybe doesn't make sense to you all. Those of you that don't know, I lived on an island here in Washington for a while, and so I have deep family connections and roots there. And that is my go-to place to gather up ingredients whenever I can. And so I was up there a handful of weeks ago and gathered some calendula that I've had drying, and the lavender and rosemary. Now, the lavender and rosemary dried far quicker, and I did harvest a handful of days earlier. And I was kind of keeping more of an eye on the calendula because I was more concerned about it drying and looking a certain way, and I didn't pay close enough attention to those guys. And I should have, because they really needed to be made into a wreath right away, and I just was not being super considerate about that. So if any of you want to make wreaths, just do it with your fresh herbs. But if you want to add flowers like I am, or ones kind of like the calendula, the way to keep them looking kind of nice is to dry them upside down. But at this point, as I've noticed, I am going to just kind of combine them all together into a nice herb bundle, and then it will still continue to dry facing downward, where the flowers will maintain most of their color and shape, and so it'll work out. So to make this first one, all you'll need are 3 herbs of your choosing plus some thread. As I said before, I chose calendula, rosemary, and lavender. They're all protective herbs, and calendula has a long history of being used as a door-hanging protection spell. So it felt pretty perfect, especially considering I was able to gather them all from a very special place that has a lot of protective properties already. Alright, good morning. Welcome to day 2. I kind of underestimated this project and forgot how much magical practice takes out of me, especially when I'm trying to film things. It's one thing to film B-roll and just have to focus on that, but another when I'm kind of discussing and sharing my thoughts in this way. And so I tired myself out a little quicker than I thought I would have, and I just ran out of time. So today I'm hoping to finish up the next 2 segments of this video, and I think I can. Though I said that yesterday, so we'll see. The one benefit though of not finishing up yesterday was that it gave me some time to think about what I wanted to do for the other iterations of protection. And as I still want to continue on showing the versatility of herbs and the different ways that you can use them, I want to use different ones in each. And I was kind of shuffling through what I have about in my home, and I found these cute tiny little jars and some herbs that, well, I think would work pretty well for a simple hanging jar spell. One of my thoughts for the window area was to do a spell bag that kind of hangs between. So in my apartment I have 4 main windows that open, and then there are a couple other windows that don't open. But as it's summertime and I don't have AC, it's nice to have those open to just allow some airflow. But in doing so, that does allow more energy to kind of just come through. And so I think taking these jars and taking 4 of them and hanging them in the window where it opens would help to kind of build a barrier and block the energy I don't want coming in from coming in. And so we're going to try that. Ideally, I would want to have red thread to hang it from, but I don't believe that I have any, so that's something that I will be changing up a little later on. But for now, I do have some twine that will work in the short term. So for this one, I have a bit of fern, some cedar, and some milkweed, all of which have protective properties, and this one in particular has transformative properties. So I'm curious to see what that will do with the energy coming in, because it may do something pretty interesting. But we'll see. It's an experiment. Okay, so my plan right now is to take these little jars that are very adorable and fill them with a few pinches of each herb, whatever feels right. Go through all the intention steps and then string them up hanging in the window. Kind of how people do with those crystals or the light catcher things, and see how it goes. I'm very hopeful. I think it will at least be a very pleasing spell to see, which I enjoy those, and yeah, looking forward to it. The milkweed proved to be a little bit of a challenge to get into the jars, but I managed with a little bit of help from a trusty bit of baby's breath. And now lastly, I'm going to make another spray, and this will hopefully act to kind of block energies from entering the room when leaving and kind of coat the person to keep them safe from things following back. And this time I'll be using rose, clove, and a bit of cinnamon. All because I think they smell really nice together, and also because they have wonderful protective qualities. Now just to allow this to infuse and cool off. Alrighty, now for the breakdown of it all. Just to kind of go over everything I did, and for those of you that either want to recreate this and not have to watch through a whole vlog, or just want a go through again, I don't really know. Still working on figuring out this format. But anywho, these last couple of days I set out to create 3 home protection charms. Things that were very simple, easy to replicate, and easy to kind of make your own. I like doing 3 ingredient spells here, if you haven't noticed, and I really wanted to focus on the versatility of herbs within these 3 spells. The main way I wanted to go about these 3 spells was to do something for the main front door, something for the windows, and then something to kind of block energy as one person was leaving. And so I kind of wanted to shroud that person in a protective barrier to keep anything unwanted from following them back. And I achieved all of these by creating an herb bundle, some spell jars that were hanging, and another spray. Kind of getting on a spray kick. Though I think this will be the last one for a while. I ran out of bottles, but they will be used up, so you never know. Anyways, let's start first with the door bundle. For this one I wanted to use herbs that I gathered all from the island. So I chose rosemary, calendula, and lavender. I picked them a few days prior and had initially hoped to make them into a wreath, but ended up drying the lavender and rosemary a little bit too long and the calendula not quite long enough. So an herb bundle it was. To make this, simply gather your herbs, combine them all, and tie them off. Then place some intention into them before hanging them. Oh, and of course, I forgot to mention, and this goes for all of these spells, make sure to cleanse the space and ground yourself before performing them. It's really important to be in a good headspace and to have everything put together, and Hazel is playing with a piece of cardboard in the background, sorry. Next, for the window jar hanging ones, I wanted to create something that would both look nice and help block negative energies from coming through the open windows. And as I was kind of looking around, I found these really cute jars, and I thought, well, maybe I could hang them kind of like those crystals or light catchers. And so it's kind of where I went off. And for this, I used cedar, fern, and milkweed. And I'm particularly curious about how the milkweed will work, as it has transformative properties. To make this one, I began by cleansing and grounding all of that business. And then I cleansed the ingredients. That's the other thing that you should do that I completely forgot to mention before. I'm not very good at the preface of these things, if you haven't noticed. Oh, and I did all of these during the full moon, though protection spells are best done during the waxing and full moon, but just to keep in mind. So if you follow the moon phases in your workings, that is the ideal time. But anyways, back to making the jar spells. I had 4 jars for the 4 windows that open, so that one would hang in each. Then I simply gathered up the ingredients, put intention into them, and then placed them into the jars. Capped them off, put more intention into them, tied them up, and hung them. Ideally, I would like to be using red thread. I don't have any with me at the moment, and will be exchanging the twine that I used for red thread later. Keep that in mind if you would like to do this, but of course if you don't have red thread, white works really well, and you know, neutrals are pretty good if you just need a baseline. Then simply hang them up in the windows and you're golden. Then lastly, for the threshold person carrying protection, I made the spray. And this I made very similar to last week's one, but I did it without the essential oils. I did the one that was just an infusion. So of course, if you are curious about other methods of doing this, I will link the last video I did on sprays up above and down below that showed 2 methods, and feel free to follow whichever is most functional for you all. But for me, an infusion is what works best. So for this one, I used clove, cinnamon, and rose. I mainly chose these herbs because I think that they smell really lovely together, and they're effective protection herbs. And so I wanted something that would be nice to spray on yourself or in an area, but also just effective for magical purposes as well. And so to make this, I did all the whole beginning stuff, gathered up my ingredients into a heat-safe container, boiled some water, poured the boiling water on top of the ingredients, allowed them to steep and cool off, then simply poured them into a bottle and spent some time infusing intention into it. Now it just sits by my door, ready to be used. And you know, I feel pretty great about all 3 of these creations. In particular, the window hangings. I was not entirely sure how I'd feel about them, but they're really pretty, and I so far have found them to be pretty effective. The space feels really good, and I'm really happy with them, and we'll be making more of them in the future for times when I am not in a space with only 4 windows. I like to try to share these things in a way that is accessible for those of you in the broom closet, and I think for the most part all of these could be. It's just about how you choose to present them. Plus, all of these would be really effective if you were living in a space with other people. You can protect your room in particular. It doesn't have to be just an entire home. So anywho, with all that said, I hope you will enjoy and give it a try. Let me know if you do or what you think about changing up in the comments down below. I would love to see it. And yeah, thank you for watching. If you haven't seen it yet, you should go check out my other channel. It's kind of a vlog channel. It's where I share more of my daily magic. You get to see previews of what I've been working on for this channel and just some extra other things and my daily life. And I know it's not for everybody, but if you can, I would really appreciate it if you checked out my Patreon. It's really what keeps things running over here, and just really appreciate all of you over there. I share my art, herbal profiles, and some other fun things. So thank you all for watching. I hope you are having a lovely day. Hazel is deciding that it is time to get up and go outside, so I am needed there. I'll see you soon.